The strategy classroom hummed with the quiet confidence of future fleet commanders. Holographic warships danced in the air above the central table, locked in a complex game of simulated warfare. Around the table sat a dozen young cadets, each the cream of the crop from the Coalition's member worlds. Except for one. Alara sat quietly, her gaze fixed on the swirling battle. She was the only human in the room, a Deathworlder, as they politely called her. Earth, after all, was known for its gravity, its predators, its diseases, everything that made it a challenging place to survive. Alara was small, even for a human, and her dark eyes held a quiet intensity that made some of the other cadets uneasy. Fleet Admiral Theron, a veteran of countless real battles, stood at the head of the table. His voice, raspy with age and authority, cut through the low murmur of the classroom. "All right, cadets, let's analyze the current engagement. The Cathar cruisers have broken through our forward defenses. Cadet Vorn, what is your recommendation?" Vorn, a towering Draknar with scales that shimmered like polished obsidian, puffed out his chest. "Admiral, I recommend a full counterattack. We engage their cruisers with our destroyers and use our carriers to launch a fighter swarm. We cripple their attack and force them to retreat." Theron nodded slowly. "A standard response, Cadet Vorn. Solid, but predictable. Cadet Alara, what is your assessment?" All eyes turned to Alara. She shifted slightly in her seat, her fingers tracing patterns on the smooth surface of the table. "With respect, Admiral," she said, her voice soft but clear, "a direct counterattack would be a mistake." A ripple of murmurs went through the room. Vorn scoffed, a low rumble in his throat. "A mistake? What would you suggest, Deathworlder? Running away?" Alara ignored him. "The Cathar are expecting a direct confrontation. They've baited us into this position. Their cruisers are heavily shielded on their forward facing, but their flanks are vulnerable, and their fighter support is limited. They are relying on disrupting our long-range weaponry, rather than achieving air superiority." "And how do you propose we exploit this, Cadet?" Theron asked. His eyes narrowed with interest. "We don't engage directly," Alara said. "We fall back, luring their cruisers further into our territory. We use smaller, faster frigates to harass their flanks, drawing their attention away from the main fleet. And then, we use our long-range railguns, positioned on the outer perimeter, to target their exposed flanks." Vorn laughed derisively. "Fall back? That's cowardly. The Cathar will overrun us." "Not if we control the engagement," Alara replied, her voice calm. "We use their aggression against them. We make them believe they are winning until it's too late." Theron stroked his chin, his gaze fixed on the holographic battle. "Interesting," he said. "Unorthodox, but interesting. Show me, Cadet Alara. Show me how this strategy would play out." Alara stood up and approached the holographic table. With a few quick commands, she adjusted the simulation. The Coalition fleet began to retreat, drawing the Cathar cruisers deeper into their territory. Small frigates darted around the edges of the battle, harassing the enemy ships and drawing their fire. "See?" Alara said, pointing to the holographic display. "The Cathar are focusing on the frigates, ignoring the larger ships. They think they have the upper hand." As the Cathar cruisers advanced, they moved into the range of the Coalition's hidden railguns. With pinpoint accuracy, the railguns unleashed a barrage of projectiles, tearing through the cruisers' vulnerable flanks. The Cathar ships buckled and twisted, their shields failing under the concentrated fire. Vorn stared at the display, his face a mask of disbelief. The other cadets watched in stunned silence as Alara systematically dismantled the Cathar fleet. Within minutes, the simulated battle was over. The Coalition forces had achieved a decisive victory, with minimal losses. Theron deactivated the simulation, his expression thoughtful. "Impressive, Cadet Alara," he said. "Very impressive. You saw the weaknesses in the enemy's strategy and exploited them brilliantly. A textbook example of asymmetric warfare. Vorn stepped forward, his face flushed with anger. "It was just luck," he exclaimed. "She got lucky." "Luck has nothing to do with it, Cadet Vorn," Theron said sternly. Cadet Ilara demonstrated a keen understanding of tactics and strategy. She saw opportunities that you missed. That is not luck, that is skill. Ilara returned to her seat, her face impassive. She was used to the skepticism, the dismissals. Being a Deathworlder in a coalition, Academy was not easy, but she had learned to ignore the prejudice and focus on her studies. She knew she had something to offer, something unique. The strategy class continued, but the atmosphere had shifted. The other cadets, who had previously dismissed Ilara as an oddity, now looked at her with a newfound respect. They realized that there was more to her than met the eye. Over the next few weeks, Ilara continued to impress her instructors and fellow cadets with her strategic insights. She excelled in simulations, consistently outmaneuvering her opponents and devising innovative solutions to complex problems. She had an uncanny ability to anticipate her enemies' moves and exploit their weaknesses. One day, Theron called Ilara into his office. He sat behind his desk, his expression serious. "Cadet Ilara," he said, "the Coalition is facing a new threat. A rogue faction of the Cathar has launched a series of attacks on our outer colonies. They are using unconventional tactics, and our forces are struggling to contain them." Ilara listened intently as Theron explained the situation. The rogue Cathar were employing hit-and-run tactics, targeting supply lines and communication centers. They were avoiding direct confrontations with the Coalition fleet, making it difficult to track and engage them. "We need a new strategy, Cadet," Theron said. "A strategy that can counter their unconventional tactics and bring them to justice. I believe you may be the one to provide it." Ilara felt a surge of adrenaline. This was her chance to prove herself, to show the Coalition what a Deathworlder was capable of. "I'm ready, Admiral," she said. "Tell me what you need me to do." Theron smiled. "I want you to develop a comprehensive strategy to defeat the rogue Cathar. You will have access to all of our intelligence data and resources. You will work with a team of experienced officers, and you will have the full support of the Coalition fleet." Ilara spent days poring over intelligence reports, analyzing battle data, and developing simulations. She studied the rogue Cathar's tactics, their strengths, and their weaknesses. She consulted with experts in various fields, from astrophysics to psychology. Finally, she had a plan. It was a risky plan, a bold plan, but she believed it was the only way to defeat the rogue Cathar. She presented her strategy to Theron and the Coalition High Command. They listened intently as she outlined her plan, answering their questions and addressing their concerns. Her plan involved using a network of cloaked drones to track the rogue Cathar's movements, predicting their next targets and setting up ambushes. It involved using specialized units of commandos to infiltrate their bases and disrupt their operations. And it involved using a decoy fleet to lure them into a trap, where they could be decisively defeated. The Coalition High Command was hesitant. Her plan was unconventional, and it involved taking significant risks. But they trusted Theron's judgment, and they were desperate for a solution. In the end, they approved her plan. Ilara's strategy worked. The Coalition forces, guided by her plan, systematically dismantled the rogue Cathar's network. The commando raids were successful, the ambushes were devastating, and the decoy fleet lured the enemy into a trap where they were utterly destroyed. The rogue Cathar threat was eliminated. Ilara had saved the Coalition from a major crisis. She became a hero, a symbol of hope and innovation. The Deathworlder girl who had once sat quietly in strategy class had outsmarted an entire fleet and saved the galaxy. And in doing so, she had proven that even the most unlikely of individuals can achieve great things if they have the courage to think differently and the will to never give up. In a galaxy where peace was the norm, there existed a planet called Terra. On this world lived a girl named Mia, a spirited Deathworlder. Her home teemed with dangers, from wild animals to extreme weather. This tough upbringing made her stronger and smarter than most people around her. She always wore a determined expression, and her bright green eyes sparkled with intelligence. Mia attended a school on the spaceship known as the Starfinder. The Starfinder was part of an interstellar fleet that represented the alliance of several planets. The students in her class came from different worlds, and they were not used to the dangers that Mia faced every day on Terra. They learned about strategy, tactics, and teamwork, skills that would prepare them for future missions in space. One day, the teacher, Captain Joe, announced that they would have a special strategy class. The class buzzed with excitement. Today, we will split into teams and face a simulated battle. You will each command a ship against an enemy fleet, Captain Joe said. The winning team will earn special badges and honors. Mia felt a flutter of nerves mixed with excitement. She was new to this kind of training, but she knew her experience from Terra could give her an edge. The teacher split the class into two teams, Team Alpha and Team Beta. Mia was on Team Beta, along with her classmates Liam, Zara, and Raj. As they sat together, Mia observed the silhouettes of Team Alpha, led by Talus, a confident boy from a planet known for its advanced technology. Talus had a reputation for being smart and crafty. Mia knew he would be a tough opponent. Mia turned to her teammates. "We need a plan. How do we want to approach this battle?" she asked. Liam looked uncertain, but Zara was quick to reply. "Let's protect our ship and hide behind asteroids. That way, we can surprise them." Mia thought about it and shook her head. "I have a better idea. Let's use misdirection. We'll pretend to retreat. When they think they have the upper hand, we'll strike hard and fast." Raj looked puzzled. "But how will we make them think we're retreating?" "We'll create a fake signal for retreat," Mia explained. "And when they chase us, we'll orchestrate a counterattack." The team started preparing for the simulation. They discussed the ship's layout and the roles each member would play. Mia took charge of the communications. Zara worked on strategies, Liam focused on steering, and Raj managed the weapon systems. Everyone felt the urgency of the task ahead. When the simulation began, the two ships quickly engaged. Team Alpha took the lead and showed off their advanced strategies. Talus ordered his crew to charge forward, and they fired a flurry of blasts at Team Beta. Mia experienced a rush of adrenaline, but she maintained her focus. "Okay, now start the fake retreat. Liam, steer us away at the right angle," she shouted. As Team Beta started to pull back, Mia set up the communication signal that would mimic their distress call. "This will confuse them," she told her teammates. Soon, Team Alpha began to chase them, confident of their victory. Talus watched his sensors with glee. "They're running away! It's time to finish this!" he yelled. Mia and her team hid behind a cluster of asteroids. "Ready your weapons," she instructed Raj. "On my mark, we need to show them what we're made of." As Team Alpha got closer, Mia saw Talus and his crew celebrating, believing they had won. At that moment, she knew it was time to activate their plan. "Now, initiate counterattack," she shouted. With precision, they shot at Team Alpha's rear with all their firepower. The energy blasts struck the enemy ship, causing alarms to blare as Talus scrambled to regain control. "What? How could they?" he exclaimed, visibly shaken. Mia expertly coordinated the attacks. "Zara, flank them from the left. Raj, keep firing. Liam, follow my commands," she ordered. They worked as a perfect unit, each executing their part flawlessly. As the battle raged on, Talus tried to regroup, but Team Beta was relentless. The combination of Mia's quick thinking and her team's focus proved too formidable. One by one, Team Alpha's systems failed, and soon they were left defenseless. The simulation ended, and the holographic screens turned off. The classroom was silent for a moment before Captain Joe clapped his hands. Team Beta wins, he declared, his voice booming with pride. The room erupted with cheers from Mia's teammates, who hurried to congratulate her. Tallis, however, looked disappointed. How did you figure that out? He asked, his brow furrowing. We have the best technology. Mia smiled, her eyes bright with victory. It's not just about technology. It's about using what you have creatively. I learned a lot from surviving on my home planet. Captain Joe stepped up to Mia and her teammates, placing special badges on their uniforms. Today, you showed great teamwork and strategy. Remember this lesson. Sometimes, the best weapons are clever thinking and cooperation. As the class broke up, Mia felt a surge of accomplishment. She had outsmarted the entire fleet and earned respect from everyone in her class, including Tallis. She realized that her skills and experiences from Terra made her strong, and she could apply that strength in new environments. Later that day, they all gathered to celebrate their victory. Mia shared stories about her home and the challenges she faced there. Her classmates listened in awe, understanding that her life on Terra shaped her into who she was. From that day forward, the classmates began to share their own backgrounds and experiences. They learned from each other and grew stronger as a team. Mia realized that being a Deathworlder was not just about facing danger, but about understanding different perspectives. That day in strategy class marked the beginning of a beautiful friendship and collaboration among different worlds. Together, they formed an alliance, not only based on skills, but also on respect and understanding. Mia's quick thinking had sparked a journey of learning and unity that would echo far beyond their classrooms and into the vast galaxy ahead. In a galaxy far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, there was a girl named Amy. Amy was different from the other students in her school. She had bright red hair and a fierce spirit that made her stand out. But what made her truly unique was her love for strategy games. While other kids played sports and video games, Amy spent her afternoon studying battle tactics and military history. One day, Amy's school announced a special class called Galactic Strategy. The teacher was an older, wise alien named Commander Zephyr, who had fought in many intergalactic wars. The students were excited, but also nervous. They had heard tales of Commander Zephyr's strong presence and deep knowledge of strategy. The students gathered in the classroom. They noticed that it was filled with strange technology and star maps. There were students from different parts of the galaxy, all eager to learn. Among them was a tall boy named Zarn. He was from a planet known for its powerful space fleet. Many believed Zarn would be the best in the class. On the first day, Commander Zephyr introduced the lesson. Greetings, young strategists. Today we will engage in a simulation of a fleet battle. You will work in teams and compete against each other. The goal is to outsmart your opponents. Amy felt a mix of excitement and fear. She knew this would be her chance to prove herself, but she also felt small among the other students. However, she decided to keep her chin up. She joined a team with Zarn and a few other students, feeling a little intimidated. The simulation began, and each team had to create a strategy to defeat their opponents. Zarn took charge, confidently suggesting they focus on attacking from multiple sides. The others nodded, impressed by his ideas. But Amy was not so sure. She had studied many battles and knew that sometimes a quieter approach worked better. As the simulation continued, Zarn's team started strong. Their initial plan worked, and they gained an advantage. But soon, Amy noticed that they were too focused on offense. She watched as their fleet spread out, leaving their base vulnerable. The opposing team, known for their clever traps, took advantage of this mistake. In a matter of minutes, Zarn's team lost 2 ships. We should regroup and protect our base, Amy said, trying to get her teammates' attention. But Zarn dismissed her suggestion, insisting they press on with the attack. Days turned into weeks, and as the class continued, Amy found herself quieting her thoughts. She watched Zarn lead their team, but each time they met resistance, his confidence crumbled. The streaks of winning turned into losses, and soon Zarn's arrogance transformed into frustration. One afternoon, after another tough battle in the simulation, Amy decided it was her time to act. After class, she gathered her teammates and said, "What if we try a different strategy, one based on patience and outsmarting the enemy instead of brute force?" Some of them looked confused, but Amy explained her plan clearly. Instead of attacking aggressively, we should feign an attack. Make the enemy think we are weak while secretly fortifying our base. So when they come for us, we will be ready. Slowly, they began to understand her idea. Zarn was not as convinced, but agreed to give it a shot. The next day, during the simulation, Amy's plan was put into action. Zarn reluctantly allowed Amy to lead. As the battle began, they followed her strategy. Instead of charging straight into the fray, they sent out scouting ships, making it look like they were struggling. The opposing team began to gain confidence, believing they could easily defeat them. They started to advance aggressively toward Amy's fleet. But Amy had prepared well. She had arranged her ships in a defensive formation, hidden behind asteroids. When the enemy fleet drew near, Amy signaled her team to spring the trap. They launched a surprise counterattack, catching the enemy off guard. The simulation turned chaotic. Zarn watched in disbelief as Amy's cunning tactics unfolded before him. Ships were darting everywhere as Amy commanded her team with precision. The enemy fleet, caught in the web of deception, began to panic. "We did it! We actually did it!" one of Amy's teammates shouted, joy evident in their voice. But the opposing commander, a girl named Lyra, was not one to give up easily. She called for a retreat, regrouping her fleet to strike back. However, Amy anticipated this move and had already prepared for their return. In a final, intense clash, Zarn stood back in awe. They successfully outmaneuvered Lyra's fleet, drawing them into their ambush. The thrill of the moment kept everyone on the edge of their seats. One by one, the enemy ships were disabled. When the simulation ended, Amy's team emerged victorious. The room erupted in applause. Commander Zephyr looked pleased, raising an eyebrow at Zarn. "It appears your team has learned the value of patience and strategy, young man." As the class ended, Zarn approached Amy. "I'm sorry for not listening to you earlier. Your plan was brilliant." Amy smiled, feeling proud of what they had achieved. "Sometimes a good strategy needs a quiet voice to guide it," she replied. From that day forward, Amy became a respected strategist among her classmates. She had not only outsmarted the fleet, but had also shown everyone that not all battles are won with force. Whether on Earth or in the stars, cleverness and patience could change the outcome of any conflict. And so, the girl who sat quietly in class transformed into a leader who inspired others. In a galaxy full of warriors, she proved that even a quiet girl could make a powerful impact. The strategy class at the Galactic Military Academy was always a tense affair. Rows of young aliens, each the best their planet had to offer, sat rigid in their seats. They listened to Instructor Xylar, a veteran of countless space battles, drone on about flanking maneuvers and resource management. But today, the tension was thicker than usual. A new student sat among them, a human girl named Sarah. Humans were rare in the Galactic Federation. Their homeworld, Earth, was classified as a Deathworld, a planet teeming with dangerous creatures and harsh environments. Only the toughest survived there. Most species considered humans too aggressive, too unpredictable, and frankly, too scary to deal with. Sarah was an exception. She was part of a new exchange program aimed at fostering understanding between species. But so far, she hadn't said a word. She just sat there, quietly observing, her eyes taking in every detail. Instructor Xylar cleared his throat. "Today, we will be simulating a defense scenario. The Draxan Armada, a formidable force known for their brutal tactics, is attempting to invade Federation space. Your task is to devise a strategy to repel them." Holographic displays flickered to life, showing a star map with Federation planets marked in blue and the Draxan fleet in red. The Draxan ships were bigger, faster, and heavily armed. The odds were not in the Federation's favor. The alien students, buzzed with nervous energy, whispering strategies and pointing at the displays. Xylar watched them, his multi-lensed eyes gleaming with anticipation. He loved seeing the students grapple with complex problems, pushing their minds to the limit. Sarah remained silent. A Gronk named Blorf, a hulking creature with thick scales, and a booming voice, raised a hand. "Instructor, I propose we concentrate our forces at the Gamma sector. It is a choke point, and we can use it to funnel the Draxan ships into a kill zone." Xylar nodded. "A sound strategy, Blorf, but the Draxan are aware of Gamma sector's strategic importance. They will likely anticipate such a move." A Tellarite, with antennae twitching, offered another idea. "We could use cloaking technology to ambush the Draxan fleet. A surprise attack could cripple their advance." "A risky maneuver, given the Draxan's advanced sensor technology," Xylar countered. "But not without merit." The students continued to offer suggestions, each carefully considered and debated. Sarah watched them, her expression unreadable. Finally, after an hour of intense discussion, Xylar turned to Sarah. "And you, Miss Sarah? Do you have any insights to offer?" All eyes turned to her. The other students were curious, some even a little condescending. What could a Deathworlder know about interstellar warfare? Sarah looked up, her eyes meeting Xylar's. Her voice was soft but clear. "With all due respect, instructor, your strategies are predictable." A gasp went through the room. Blorf bristled, his scales flashing. "Predictable? We are using proven tactics." Sarah ignored him. "The Draxan know you will try to funnel them into a choke point. They know you will try to ambush them. They have fought the Federation for decades. They know your every move." "Then what do you suggest?" Xylar asked, intrigued. "We don't fight them where they expect us to," Sarah said. "We use their aggression against them." She walked to the holographic display and tapped a point far beyond the Federation's borders, a region of empty space known as the Void. "Draxan are bloodthirsty. They want to conquer. They won't expect us to abandon our territory and lure them into the Void." "But that would leave our planets undefended," Blorf protested. "Not entirely," Sarah said. "We leave behind a skeleton fleet, just enough to make it look like we're putting up a fight. The Draxan will take the bait. They'll see an easy victory and rush in." "And then what?" Xylar asked, his interest piqued. "The Void is a dangerous place," Sarah explained. "Unstable gravitational fields, rogue asteroids, and pockets of intense radiation. It's suicide to navigate without careful planning. The Draxan won't bother. They'll be too focused on the easy victory. We'll use our knowledge of the Void to our advantage. We'll map out safe routes, hidden jump points, and use the environment to harass their fleet. Hit-and-run tactics. Wear them down. Meanwhile," she continued, "we gather our main fleet at the edge of the Void, hidden behind a nebula. Once the Draxan are deep inside, battered and disorganized, we hit them with everything we've got. A full-scale assault. They won't be expecting it." The room was silent as Sarah laid out her plan. It was audacious, risky, and completely unexpected. It went against everything they had been taught about defensive strategy. Xylar stared at the holographic display, running simulations in his mind. He saw the Draxan fleet, lured into the Void, struggling against the environment, and then ambushed by the Federation's main force. It was a gamble, but it could work. "Interesting," Xylar said slowly. "But what if the Draxan see through the ruse? What if they refuse to take the bait?" Sarah smiled, a rare sight that sent a shiver down Blorf's spine. "They won't. I'm counting on their arrogance. The Draxan believe they are superior. They won't believe we would willingly abandon our territory. They'll see it as a sign of weakness." Xylar nodded. "Very well, Miss Sarah. Let's see how your strategy plays out." He initiated the simulation. The holographic display showed the Federation fleet retreating, drawing the Draxan armada into the Void. Just as Sarah predicted, The Draxan took the bait, their ships rushing forward, eager for conquest. The Federation's skeleton fleet harassed them, using guerrilla tactics to inflict damage and slow their advance. The Draxan ships struggled to navigate the treacherous environment of the void, losing ships to asteroid collisions and radiation bursts. Finally, as the Draxan fleet reached the center of the void, the Federation's main force emerged from behind the nebula. A devastating surprise attack. The Draxan ships, weakened and disorganized, were caught completely off guard. The simulation showed the battle raging for hours, but the outcome was clear. The Draxan armada was decimated. The Federation had won. The room erupted in applause. Even Blorf, who had initially scoffed at Sarah's plan, was impressed. Xylar deactivated the simulation. He turned to Sarah, a look of admiration in his eyes. "A brilliant strategy, Miss Sarah. You have a unique understanding of warfare." "Thank you, instructor," Sarah said, her expression calm. "Where did you learn such tactics?" Xylar asked. Sarah shrugged. "On Earth, we don't have the luxury of fighting on our terms. We have to adapt, to be cunning, to use every advantage we can find." The other students looked at Sarah with a newfound respect. They realized that Deathworlders were not just aggressive and unpredictable. They were also incredibly resourceful and intelligent. They were survivors. From that day on, Sarah was no longer the quiet, mysterious Deathworlder girl in the back of the class. She was a strategist, a leader, and a force to be reckoned with. She had proven that even the most formidable enemy could be outsmarted, and that sometimes the greatest strength came from the most unexpected places. The Galactic Federation had a lot to learn from the Deathworlders, and Sarah was just the one to teach them. The strategy class was always quiet, but today it was quieter than usual. Most eyes were on Anya, the girl from Earth, the only human in the entire academy. Earth, they called a death world, a place where everything, even the plants, seemed designed to kill you. Anya didn't look like a killer. She was small, with wide eyes and a quiet voice. She always sat in the back, sketching in her notebook, never speaking unless spoken to. Commander Zara, a seasoned officer with a stern face and a reputation for brilliance, stood at the front. "Today's simulation," she announced, her voice echoing, "in the large hall, is a standard defense scenario. You are tasked with protecting a key Federation outpost from a Krallian raiding fleet. You have standard defense platforms, a small squadron of fighters, and limited resources. Begin." The holographic display in the center of the room flickered to life, showing a star system with a small space station orbiting a blue planet. Red dots representing the Krallian fleet began to move towards the outpost. The Krallians were known for their aggressive tactics and superior numbers. Around Anya, cadets began to murmur, their fingers flying across their consoles. Zara watched them, her expression unreadable. Cadet Rix, the top student in the class, immediately took the lead. Issuing orders to the simulated defense platforms, he was confident, his strategies textbook perfect. Anya continued to sketch in her notebook. No one paid her any attention. She was just the quiet girl from the death world, probably drawing pictures of flowers or something equally harmless. The simulation progressed. The Krallian fleet advanced, and Rix's defenses began to crumble. He tried to adapt, shifting his forces, launching counterattacks, but the Krallians were relentless. Their numbers were overwhelming. Zara watched as the outpost's shields failed, and the Krallian ships began their bombardment. Rix's face was pale, sweat beading on his forehead. He had done everything right, followed every protocol, but it wasn't enough. "Simulation failed," Zara announced, her voice devoid of emotion. "Cadet Rix, explain your strategy." Rix stammered, I followed the standard defense protocols, Commander. I positioned the platforms for maximum coverage, used the fighters. For harassment? But their numbers? Numbers are a factor, but not the only one," Zara interrupted. "Where did you fail to anticipate their moves?" Rix hesitated. I don't know, Commander." Zara sighed. "This is why we run these simulations. to learn from our mistakes, to think outside the box. She paused, her gaze sweeping across the room. Anyone else have any ideas? Any alternative strategies? Silence. Everyone avoided her eyes. No one wanted to challenge Commander Zara, especially after Rix, the star student, had failed so spectacularly. Then a small voice spoke from the back. I have an idea. Everyone turned to look at Anya. Zara raised an eyebrow. Cadet, Earthling, you have a strategy? Anya nodded, her cheeks slightly flushed. Yes, Commander. Very well, Zara said, a hint of amusement in her voice. Let's hear it. Anya walked to the front of the room, her notebook in hand. She looked at the holographic display, her eyes narrowed in concentration. The problem, she said, her voice surprisingly steady, is that you're fighting a conventional war. The Krallians expect you to defend the outpost, so don't. A murmur went through the room. Don't defend the outpost? That was crazy. Explain, Zara said, her curiosity piqued. Anya pointed to the blue planet below the outpost. That planet. What's its composition? Rix frowned. Mostly water, some silicate rock, uninhabited. Perfect, Anya said. The Krallians want the outpost. Right? Let them have it. But first, evacuate all personnel and set the outpost to self-destruct. Not immediately, but on a timer. Zara was starting to understand. And the planet? We use the planet, Anya said, a glint in her eyes, as a weapon. She explained her plan. It was audacious, bordering on insane. She proposed using the outpost's self-destruct sequence to trigger a series of controlled explosions on the planet's surface. These explosions would create massive tidal waves, which, combined with the planet's gravitational pull, would create a localized distortion in space-time. This distortion would be subtle, almost undetectable, but it would be enough to disrupt the Krallian fleet's navigation systems, throwing them into disarray. While they were struggling to regain control, the Federation fighters, equipped with advanced targeting systems, would launch a series of precise strikes, crippling the Krallian ships. The plan was risky. It relied on precise timing and a deep understanding of physics. But it was also brilliant. It turned the Krallians' strength, their numbers, against them. Zara looked at Anya, her expression now one of genuine respect. And you think this will work? Anya shrugged. It's just a theory, but on my planet we often use unconventional methods to survive. Zara smiled. Very well, Cadet. Let's see if your Deathworld tactics can save us. The simulation was reset. This time, Anya took control. She worked quickly, issuing orders with a confidence that surprised everyone. The outpost was evacuated, the self-destruct sequence initiated. Then, she turned her attention to the planet. Using the outpost's orbital cannons, she triggered a series of carefully calculated explosions. The holographic display showed the planet's surface erupting in geysers of water and rock. The Krallian fleet, sensing victory, moved in to claim the EE outpost. But as they entered the planet's orbit, something strange happened. Their ships began to wobble, their navigation systems went haywire. Alarms blared on their bridges. The Federation fighters, waiting in ambush, launched their attack. Guided by Anya's targeting data, they struck the Krallian ships with pinpoint accuracy. The Krallian fleet, caught completely off guard, was devastated. Within minutes, the simulation was over. The Krallian fleet was in ruins. The Federation outpost, though destroyed, had served its purpose. Zara turned to Anya, her eyes shining. Simulation successful. Cadet. Anya. That was remarkable. The other cadets were stunned. They had underestimated. Anya dismissed her as just a quiet girl from a backwater planet, but she had outsmarted them all. Rix, his face still pale, walked up to Anya. That was incredible, he said, his voice filled with awe. I never would have thought of that. Anya smiled shyly. Sometimes, she said, the best way to win is to not play by the rules. From that day on, Anya was no longer the quiet girl from the death world. She was Anya, the strategist, the one who saw possibilities where others saw only limitations. She was a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the most unexpected places, and that even on a death world, hope can bloom in the most unlikely of hearts. Once upon a time, in a galaxy filled with many different species, there was a Deathworlder girl named Zara. She lived on a planet that was harsh and filled with dangerous animals, but that made her strong and clever. Zara was smart and worked hard to fit in at her new school. This school was on a peaceful planet called Luminara, where everything was bright and safe. Zara was in a strategy class with other students who came from different planets. They all wanted to learn how to be great leaders and plan battles. Most of her classmates were excited to learn about tactics and war. But Zara felt nervous. She was different from them. They lived in security, while she had to learn to survive in her world, where danger was around every corner. The class was taught by a stern teacher named Captain Lyle, an experienced leader from Luminara's fleet. He loved strategy and expected his students to do their best. Captain Lyle was known for pushing his students hard, and today, he had prepared a special challenge. Today, we are going to play a simulation game, he announced. You will be the fleet commanders, and your task is to capture the enemy's base. You must use strategy and your wits to outsmart each other. Remember, this is not just a game. This is how leaders are made. Zara felt a flutter of fear in her stomach. Just then, two boys in the class, Max and Jet, snickered when they saw her tattoo, a mark of her Deathworld roots. What could she possibly know about strategy? Max whispered to Jet, loud enough for Zara to hear. Zara took a deep breath. She wanted to show them she was smart. The room was filled with excitement as students started to team up. Zara decided to work alone. Some classmates shot her confused looks, but she knew she had to trust her instincts. Captain Lyle explained that they had to understand their enemy's weaknesses to win. Zara remembered how her people survived against powerful predators back home by using their intelligence and skills. When the simulation began, students quickly divided their forces and created plans. Max and Jet teamed up and boasted about their superior tactics. They flaunted their strategies and made fun of Zara. She's going to get crushed, Jet laughed. In the simulation, each student controlled a fleet of ships on a digital screen. Zara watched intently as her classmates moved their ships into position. She knew that this game was just like the hunts on her planet. Patience and careful planning were vital. Captain Lyle counted down. 3, 2, 1. Engage! The simulation began, and students quickly made decisions on where to attack. Max and Jet decided to storm the other fleets with brute force. They charged their ships aggressively, thinking strength would lead them to victory. Zara stayed back and monitored their moves. She noticed how they left their flanks open, a significant vulnerability. As the simulation unfolded, Zara created a plan based on what she had learned. Rather than sprinting into battle, she thought of a clever way to sneak through the weaknesses she had identified. While everyone else tried to overpower one another, Zara limited her movements and waited for the right moment. Captain Lyle repeatedly called out updates, marking who was falling behind. Max and Jet mocked Zara, but she ignored them. The classmates were too busy battling each other to notice the quiet girl who sat observing and thinking. After some time, Zara unharnessed her ships and moved them strategically. She sent a small force to distract Max and Jet, faking a strong attack from one side. They laughed, confident they would brush her aside. But Zara was ready. As they shifted their attention to her little fleet, she cleverly activated her hidden reserves from the opposite side. Zara flanked them. She had learned the importance of surprise from her survival experiences, and she executed her plan with precision. One by one, Max and Jet's ships fell to Zara's counterattack. Captain Lyle's eyes widened as he watched the once quiet girl turn the tide of the battle. Other students cheered as they realized what Zara was doing. Zara felt her heart race with excitement. She had taken them all by surprise, proving that size and noise were not everything. In a matter of moments, the boys were outmaneuvered and defeated. When it was all over, Captain Lyle turned to the class and raised his hand. Zara has outsmarted every fleet here. She showed us that cleverness can win against strength. The room erupted into applause. Zara felt her cheeks flush, proud yet surprised. Max and Jet, downcast, realized they had underestimated her. Zara walked over to them, and instead of gloating, she smiled. "You guys played well," she said sincerely. "Every strategy has its strengths." That day marked a change in Zara's life at Luminara. Students who once teased her now approached her for advice. They admired her skills and wanted to learn from her unique perspective. Zara felt a mix of pride and relief. The world she came from had given her abilities others didn't possess. As time passed, Zara grew more confident and became an essential part of her class. She taught them the value of patience, strategy, and creative thinking. They no longer saw her as an outsider, but as a vital member of their group. Captain Lyle, impressed by her growth, invited Zara to help him lead future strategy lessons. She found her place among friends, showing everyone that courage and cleverness could come from anywhere, even from a Deathworlder girl sitting quietly in strategy class. In the end, Zara learned that even in the face of odds, intelligence and perseverance could outsmart any challenge. Her experiences made her stronger, and she was finally proud of where she came from. The galaxy was full of surprises, and Zara knew she had only just begun to explore them. In a galaxy filled with advanced civilizations, there was a small planet called Terra. On this planet lived many species, but one stood out amongst them: humans, often referred to as Deathworlders. They were known for their resilience, creativity, and ability to survive in the most dangerous environments. Among these humans was a young girl named Ava. She had dark hair and bright eyes that sparkled with curiosity. Ava was different from her peers. She was deeply interested in strategy and tactics, often spending hours reading about famous battles and great leaders. One day, in a brightly lit classroom filled with eager students, Ava found herself in a strategy class that was not like any other. The class was full of students from different species, each boasting their own unique abilities. The classroom was buzzing with energy as the teacher, a tall alien with shimmering skin named Professor Ilox, introduced a new simulation exercise. "Today," Professor Ilox announced, "we will be forming fleets and engaging in a simulated battle. Your task is to outsmart your opponents and secure victory. Remember, strategy is not just about numbers. It's about thinking outside the box." Excited murmurs filled the room as the students started forming their teams. Ava was put in a team with 3 others: Marvin, a large, muscular alien with 4 arms, Lena, a quick-witted engineer with bright blue skin, and Jor, a tactical genius from a distant planet known for its cold climate. As they gathered around, a holographic display of the battlefield, Marvin flexed his muscles. "We'll crush them with strength," he boomed. Lena furrowed her brow. "No, we need to outthink them. Strength won't always help us in a tactical situation." The discussion continued with everyone sharing their ideas, but Ava sat quietly, observing her teammates. She saw the excitement in their eyes, but she also sensed the impulse to dominate. Finally, after listening for a while, Ava spoke up. "What if we tried something unexpected?" The room fell silent as her teammates turned to her, puzzled. "What do you mean?" Jor asked, eager to hear her thoughts. Ava took a deep breath. "Instead of attacking head-on, what if we create a diversion? We can make it seem like we are attacking from one direction while using a small flank to catch them off guard." Marvin looked skeptical. "But we'll be outnumbered." Lena's eyes lit up. "That could actually work. If we can pull..." Their focus, we can trick them into making a mistake. Jor thought for a moment, nodding slowly. I like it. It's risky. But if we coordinate well, it could surprise them. Let's do it. They spent the next hour preparing their strategies for the simulation. Ava suggested using holographic decoys to mislead their foes, while she, Marvin, and Lena would handle the real attack from a different side. Each member of the team had their own strengths, and they quickly learned to work together in harmony. When the simulation started, the virtual battlefield exploded with activity. Ships moved across the screen, representing both teams emerging from their corners. Ava watched the movements closely, noticing a pattern in the opponent's formations. She instructed her team to place the holographic decoys, making it appear they were launching a concentrated assault. The opposing team took the bait. Their ships turned towards the decoys, drawn in by the feigned strength. Ava grinned as she saw the opportunity arise. Now, move to the flank, she commanded. Marvin piloted their ship with skill, positioning it away from the incoming attacks. Lena adjusted the weapons, ready to strike with precision. Jor calculated their victory chance based on the opponent's movements. Ava felt a rush of excitement. As they swiftly maneuvered to the flank, they unleashed their weapons at the unsuspecting enemies. It was a perfect ambush. Not one of the opposing fleet saw it coming. Suddenly, the tide began to change. The once confident opposing team started losing their ships, confusion and panic spreading among their ranks. Ava's heart raced as she realized they had the momentum. "Keep going! Don't let them regroup!" she shouted. "They'll try to reorganize. Let's hit their command ship." The team rallied around her call, each member focused on their tasks. Under Ava's leadership, they continued to execute their plan flawlessly. The opposing team scrambled. Some ships attempted to return fire, but it was too late. Ava's strategy worked perfectly. As the simulation neared its end, only one of the opposing ships remained, desperately trying to escape. The teacher observed, in awe, impressed by Ava's strategy. "Well done, team," Professor Ilox declared. "You have successfully outsmarted an entire fleet with creativity and teamwork." The simulation concluded, and the classroom erupted in applause. Ava's friends lifted her up in celebration. "You were amazing, Ava," Lena said, beaming with pride. "You turned the whole battle around." "Yes, we wouldn't have won without your idea," Marvin added, his voice full of admiration. Jor smiled. "You've proven that Deathworlders can not only survive but thrive when it comes to strategy." As the excitement settled down, Ava felt a sense of belonging. She had never been more proud of her team. The respect and admiration from her classmates fueled her passion for strategy even more. Days turned into weeks, and Ava continued to excel in strategy class. The lessons she learned went beyond just simulations. They taught her the value of teamwork, creativity, and thinking ahead. Her reputation as a brilliant strategist began to spread beyond the classroom, drawing the attention of larger teams. One fateful day, the professor approached her with an exciting opportunity. "Ava, we have an intergalactic competition coming up. I want you to be one of the lead strategists of our team. Your innovative mind could take us to victory." Ava's heart soared. She had always dreamed of proving herself in a grander arena. With newfound determination, she accepted the challenge. As she prepared for the competition, Ava knew she would face tougher opponents than ever before. Yet, the lessons she had learned in that little strategy class about thinking outside the box, trusting her team, and embracing her own unique abilities filled her with confidence. And so, the Deathworlder girl, who had once sat quietly in class, was ready to outsmart fleets across the galaxy. She embarked on this new chapter, ready to make her mark among the stars, where simple ideas turned into extraordinary victories.